In a corner of the universe, where the threads of fate intertwine with ancestral wisdom and dreams become reality, lies a golden path known to those who seek the secrets of fulfillment and success. This radiant path, covered in golden leaves and bathed in perpetual sunlight, is called the path of life. In this magical and transformative text, you will uncover the timeless teachings of Robert Collier, a modern alchemist who transforms words into power, thoughts into achievements, and desires into fulfilled destinies. With every whispered word and every story woven with threads of gold, you will embark on a fascinating journey into your own inner self. Imagine walking on paths of light, where each step resonates with the promise of a brighter tomorrow, and every breath of wind carries the ancestral wisdom of those who have transcended time and space. In this text, each chapter serves as a gateway to realizing your deepest dreams, a reminder that the universe conspires in favor of those who dare to dream big. Prepare to leave behind the shadows of the past and embark on a journey toward the expansion of your infinite potential. On the path of life, each word echoes with limitless possibilities. Each story ignites the spark of creativity, and each lesson illuminates the way to a full and satisfying life. Welcome to a world where dreams become reality, and every moment is imbued with magic. This is the beginning of your journey to discovering your true potential. It is the path of life, as told by Robert Collier. If you had more money than time, with millions in your pocket that you could not spend, what would be your favorite philanthropy? Would you dedicate yourself to helping hospitals, or perhaps making donations to churches? Would you support homes for the blind, disabled, or elderly? I believe I would dedicate myself to helping homes, but not those for the elderly or sick, rather the homes of young couples. I have often thought that if I became a billionaire, I would like to create an endowment fund to help young couples overcome the difficulties of the first and second years of marriage, with a particular emphasis on the latter, as I believe that's when the real problems arise. Take a young couple full of dreams, put them in a cozy nest, and add a healthy baby. I guarantee there is nothing more beautiful on earth. But if, instead of a healthy baby, there is a sick baby, a weak and exhausted mother, a worried and unhappy father, you will find nothing more lamentable. Providing them with help for a month, a vacation, or even a small bonus to cover medical expenses would mean paradise for a small family. Yet is this something they can easily obtain? Of course not. What is the reason? They are not poor enough to receive charity, but not rich enough to afford it on their own. These families belong to the middle class, so they must bear the burdens of both the poor and the rich, taking what is left for themselves. To all who suffer these hardships, it is to them that I wish to dedicate this text, for if I cannot provide them with libraries or schools, perhaps I can show them the way to obtain all the blessings they desire. I know very well that men and women like them do not need charity, let alone sympathy. What they need is inspiration and opportunity. They need the kind of inspiration that drives a person to go out and forge their own path, for after all, that is the greatest gift one can give. Few people appreciate free gifts, for they are like the man to whom the village admirers gave a watch, and who, upon seeing it, simply gave it a critical glance before adding, "And the chain?" I want to show them a way to earn for themselves the full measure of success they have dreamed of and almost ceased to hope for, something that every young couple would welcome with open arms, something that I can do to make disappointments rarely seen, for it will allow the husband and wife to work together not only for domestic happiness, but also for professional success. Robert Collier, the greatest discovery in the world. You can do everything you believe yourself capable of, but you will never succeed more if you are afraid of yourself. Well, young man, there is little for you in the store. Failure comes first from within. It is there if we are aware of it, but you can overcome it. Even if you face the worst, you just have to feel that you are going to make it. Edgar A. Guest, what do you think is the most significant discovery of modern times? The discovery of dinosaur eggs in the Mongolian plains, which scientists estimate were laid about 10 million years ago, or the uncovering of Tutankhamun's tomb, with its unparalleled specimens that testify to a past civilization. Perhaps it was the radioactive clock with which Professor Lane from Tubes College estimated the Earth's age at 1,250,000,000,000 years. What about wireless telephony, airplanes, or artificial thunder? Let me tell you that none of these are truly significant, because what is truly meaningful is that, from all their extensive research and the study of all these past eras, people are beginning for the first time to understand what the principle of life is. Somehow this principle was brought to Earth thousands or millions of years ago, and they are starting to glimpse the infinite power it places in their hands, as well as the incalculable possibilities it opens up. This is the greatest discovery of modern times. Every person can invoke this vital principle at will, for it is at the service of their mind, just as the legendary genius of Aladdin's lamp once was. All one needs to do is understand it and work in harmony with it to obtain whatever one might need, whether it be health, happiness, wealth, or success. To illustrate this truth, let us briefly return to the beginning of things. In the beginning, whether one believes that humanity dates back to the primitive ape man of 500,000 years ago, or that it stems from the Creator's mind. In any case, there had to be a first cause, a creator. Some power must have been brought to this earth to give life to the first germ. And creation is no less marvelous if it began with the lowest form of plant life and developed through countless ages into the highest product of current civilization, or if everything was created in 6 days. In the beginning, the earth was nothing but a mist of fire. Whether this happened 6,000 or 1 billion years ago is something that really doesn't matter. I believe the only thing that matters is that at some point and in some way, the germ of life arrived on this planet as the vital principle animating all nature and giving rise to plants, animals, and man himself. If we accept the scientists' version, the first form on which life appeared on Earth was the humble algae, a gelatinous mass floating in the waters, which experts believe was the principle that gave birth to life on Earth. Next came the first piece of animal life, the tiny amoeba, a kind of jellyfish consisting of a single cell, without vertebrae, and almost indistinguishable from the surrounding water. But despite its deficiencies, it had life, and from this life, according to scientists, all that we have and are today can be derived. All the millions of forms and varieties of plants and animals that have appeared since then are merely different manifestations of life, formed to meet different conditions over millions of years. The germ of life has been threatened by all sorts of dangers: floods, earthquakes, droughts, desert heat, icy cold, or volcanic eruptions. But to it, each new danger was only an incentive to find a new resource and bring forth a new form of life. For example, to meet a series of needs, the dinosaur was formed, and to meet another, butterflies appeared long before the advent of man. We see the limitless ingenuity of the germ of life as it manifested in various ways. First, to escape danger in the water, it sought land, and when pursued on land, it took to the air. To breathe in the sea, it developed gills, and being stranded on land, it perfected lungs. Then, to face a type of danger, it developed a shell, but for another, it produced a stinger. To protect itself from the icy cold, it grew fur, but in temperate climates, it became smooth, and subjected to alternating heat and cold, it developed feathers. From the beginning, it demonstrated its power to adapt to each changing condition and meet every need of creatures. Had it been possible to kill this idea of life, it would have perished centuries ago when fire, flood, drought, and famine succeeded each other rapidly. But obstacles, misfortunes, and cataclysms were only new opportunities for it to assert its power. In fact, it needed obstacles to awaken, to show its energy and resources. The great reptiles and monsters of antiquity have disappeared, but the principle of life has remained, changing through the ages, always developing and improving with time. God said that whatever power brought this idea of life to Earth, it came endowed with unlimited resources, unlimited energy, and unlimited life. No other force can defeat it, and no obstacle can stop it. Throughout the history of life and humanity, one can see its guiding intelligence, whether called nature or providence, rising to meet all the needs of life and the purpose of existence. No one can follow through the ages without realizing that the entire purpose of existence is growth. Life is dynamic, not static. It always moves forward without stopping. The only unforgivable sin of nature is to remain still, stagnant. The Giganotosaurus, which was over 30 meters long and as large as a house, the Tyrannosaurus, which had the strength of a locomotive and was the pinnacle of terror, the pterodactyl or flying dragon, all these giant prehistoric monsters have vanished. They ceased to be useful, did not know how to cope with changing conditions, remained still, stagnant, while life around them continued to advance. Egypt and Persia, Greece and Rome, all the great empires of antiquity perished when they ceased to grow. China built a wall around itself and remained stationary for 1,000 years. Today, it is the least of powers. Throughout nature, ceasing to grow means perishing. This text is for men and women who are not willing to remain stationary, who refuse to stop growing. That's why it will provide them with a clearer understanding of their own potential, showing them how to work with and harness the infinite energy that surrounds us all. Man's fear is uncertainty, not knowing which path to take. But this will not be terrifying for you. Your future is in your hands, for the only law of infinite energy is the law of supply. The principle of life is your principle. To survive, conquer, and triumph over all obstacles has been a daily practice since the beginning of time. It is no less ingenious now than it was before. All you need to do is provide the impulse, and for that you must work in harmony with it. Only then will you obtain everything you might need. If this vital principle is so strong that in the lowest forms of animal life, it can develop a shell or venom to meet a need and learn to turn, launch, and fly, it is more than certain that it can make you a rational being with a mind capable of working with this vital principle, providing you with the energy and initiative needed to propel it. The proof is within you. Undertake a form of vigorous exercise such as rowing, tennis, swimming, or horseback riding. At first, your weak muscles will tire easily, but if you continue for a few days, the principle of life will quickly strengthen them, toughening them enough to meet this new need. If you do difficult manual labor, what happens? The skin on your hands becomes sensitive and blisters, causing a lot of pain. But if you continue, eventually the skin doesn't wear away. On the contrary, the principle of life provides additional thickness, extra hardness that we call calluses, and meets this need for protection of the flesh. Throughout your daily life, you will find this principle of life working constantly. Embrace it, work with it, take it as your own, and there will be nothing you cannot do. The mere presence of obstacles is beneficial, because when nothing is happening or things are going too well, the vital principle seems to be dormant. But when you need it and call upon it urgently, that's when it works the most. The difference between luck and fortune is that the latter is a capricious force that smiles more often on those who need it least. Bet your last penny on drawing a card, and you have nothing between you and ruin except the turn of a wheel or the speed of a horse. Luck might abandon you 1,000 times, but it is the exact opposite with the principle of life. As long as things are going well, as long as life flows smoothly, the principle of life seems to slumber, for it is confident that your affairs can sort themselves out. But if things begin to go wrong, or if ruin and misfortune stare you in the face, then the principle of life will rise to seize the opportunity, the open sesame of life. There is a Napoleonic sense of power that ensures success in knowing the invincible vital principle, and it is behind every one of your actions. Knowing that you have it, working with you as a force that has never failed in what it undertakes, allows you to move forward with the confidence that it will not fail you either. It is the genius that has overcome all obstacles to transform you into what you are. Thus, it will not be lacking when you need it immediately. It is also the reserve strength of the athlete or the second wind of the runner. Sometimes it is the strength to which, in moments of great tension or excitement, you unconsciously turn to accomplish feats that you later consider superhuman. However, let me tell you that none of this is superhuman in any case. These are simply abilities that are beyond the reach of your conscious being. If only you could awaken that conscious being with the giant sleeping within you. These superhuman feats will become your ordinary everyday achievements. Wilkin of Oakland, Oregon writes, "I know such a power exists because once I saw 2 boys, aged 16 and 18, lift a log while their brother was trapped underneath. The next day, the same two boys, along with another man and myself, tried to lift the end of the log, but we couldn't even move it. How is it that these two boys were able to do, in a moment of need, what four men couldn't do once the need had passed? Because they never stopped to wonder if it was possible. They simply saw the urgent need, so they focused all their thought and energy on it, without hesitation or fear, and the genius within them, waiting for the call, responded by giving them the strength, not of 2 men, but of 10. It doesn't matter if you're a banker or a lawyer, a businessman or an employee. It doesn't matter if you guard millions or struggle for your daily bread. The principle of life makes no distinction between rich and poor, or between great and small. Simply put, the greater your need, the more easily it will respond to your call. For wherever there is an unusual task, poverty, difficulty, illness, or despair, there is the servant of your mind, ready and willing to help. You only need to call on it. Moreover, it is not only ready and willing to serve you, but it is always available to do so. Its ingenuity and resources are limitless. It is the spirit, the thought, and the telepathy that transmits messages without words or writing. It is that sixth sense that warns you of invisible dangers. No matter how complex your problem, the solution is undoubtedly somewhere in thought. Rest assured that if a solution exists, this mental giant will find it for you. It knows and always does things correctly. Thus, whatever you need, it will always be done in the best way for you, the genius of your mind. No matter how narrow the door or how laden the parchment with punishment, I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. Henley. First came the Stone Age. At that time life was for the strong of arm or swift of foot. Then came the Iron Age, and although life was more valuable, the strong still dominated the weak. Later, the Golden Age arrived. Here wealth replaced strength. However, the poor could not choose between the whips of old-time slave drivers or the dark weapons of poverty and hunger. Now we enter a new era, the Mental Age. Today, every man can be his own master. Poverty and circumstances no longer have power over us, and the humblest creature on earth can gain a place alongside the highest. For those who do not know the resources of the mind, these statements may seem hasty. But science demonstrates that deep within every man's mind, there are unexplored resources full of undiscovered deposits of energy, wisdom, and ability. And if you bring these treasures to the surface, you will gain astonishing wealth, a new power. From the simple catamaran of the savages to the gigantic ocean liners that carry thousands of people from one continent to another, these are merely light steps in the development of the mind. From the caveman, humbly hidden in his cave out of fear of lightning, fire, or water, to the engineer who harnesses all the forces of nature. The two are only measures of difference in mental development. A man without rational thought would be like the apes, an easy prey for any creature fast and strong enough to tear him apart, living constantly at the mercy of the wind and the climate, like a poor timid creature living only in the moment, too frightened by what dwells in the shadow. It is thanks to his superior mind that he learned to create fire to keep warm, to build weapons to defend against wild creatures, and to use objects to protect himself from the elements. It is through the mind that man has conquered the forces of nature, and it is also through the mind that he has made machines do the work of millions of horses and billions of hands. What he will do next, no one knows, for man is only beginning to awaken his own powers. This tells us that the discovery of the unfathomable riches buried deep in the mind is recent, just as the gold prospectors of 1849 initially dug only in surface gravel, carried away by the currents. But now they are starting to dig deeper, to reach the pure vein beneath. We mourn the loss of our forests, worry about the depletion of our coal and oil resources, and condemn waste in our factories. But we pay no attention to the greatest waste of all, the waste of our own intellectual potential. Professor W. James, the famous Harvard psychologist, estimated that the average person uses only 10% of their mental power. Man has unlimited power, but uses only a small part of it, which means he has unlimited wealth all around him and does not know how to use it. With his dormant divine powers, he settles for following his daily routine, eating, sleeping, working. Man has a somewhat more restless existence than animals, and that is why all of nature and all life call upon him to awaken, to animate, to be what he wants to be, to obtain what he desires, to achieve everything he aspires to. It is within you, and it is not only up to you to bring it out and put it into practice. Of course, you need to know how to do it, but before learning how to use it, first realize that you possess this power. So our first goal will be to understand this power. Psychologists and metaphysicians around the world agree that the mind is all that matters. You can be whatever you decide to be. You don't need to be sick, unhappy, or poor. You are not just a mere piece of land or a beast of burden condemned to spend your days in incessant toil in exchange for food and shelter. You are one of the masters of the earth. You have unlimited potential within you. There is a power that, once harnessed and directed properly, can lift you out of the swamp of mediocrity and place you among the chosen of the earth, the lawyers, writers, statesmen, great businessmen, creators and thinkers of all time. But it all depends on you. Learning to use this power is up to you, using the mind for all these things. Your body is indeed a mere machine that the mind uses. This mind is often considered as the consciousness, but the conscious part of your mind is actually the smallest part of it. 90% of your mental life is subconscious. So when you actively use your mind, only this conscious part is aware of it. It's as if you are using only a fraction of your real capacity, which makes you operate at a slow speed. The reason why most people do not achieve success in life is that many of them are content to operate at a slow speed throughout their lives. They are content to function with superficial energy. If these same people were to engage in the struggle without the resistance of their subconscious mind, they would be surprised by their unsuspected ability to succeed. The conscious and subconscious are, of course, integral parts of a single mind, but for convenience, let's divide the mind into three parts: the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and the infinite, subliminal or universal mind. The conscious mind, when you say, I see, I hear, I feel, I touch, it is your conscious mind that is actually speaking. This is where the force that governs the five senses resides. It is the phase of the mind with which you feel and reason, the one with which everyone is familiar. It is the mind with which you do business, the one that controls almost all your voluntary muscles, that distinguishes between right and wrong, wise and foolish. It is the general responsible for all mental forces. It can plan ahead and accomplish things as intended. It can also drift like an impulsive creature, yielding to events like mere flotsam in the current of life. Only through your conscious mind can you reach the subconscious and the universal mind. Your conscious mind is the gatekeeper, the unshakable sentry at the door. It is the conscious mind that the subconscious seeks in all its impressions. It is on the conscious mind that the subconscious must rely in the teamwork required to achieve successful results. I wouldn't expect much from an army where the general never plans ahead, no matter how good the soldiers are. Others would doubt their own ability, as well as that of their men, as they would be constantly concerned with the enemy rather than planning how to conquer it. Similarly, you cannot expect good results from a baseball team if the pitcher disagrees with the catcher. In the same way, you cannot expect results from the subconscious when your conscious mind is filled with fear or concern, and does not know what it wants. The most important part of your conscious mind focuses all your thoughts on the thing you want, closing the door to any suggestion of fear, worry, or illness. Once you have acquired this ability, nothing will be impossible for you. The subconscious does not reason inductively. It takes the thoughts you send it and leads them to a logical conclusion. Send it thoughts of health and strength, and it will develop health and strength in your body. If you allow suggestions of illness, fear of diseases or accidents to enter you, whether through your own thoughts or those of the people around you, it is very likely that you will see the manifestation of illness occur in you. Your mind is the master of your body. It directs and controls all the functions of your body. Your body is indeed a small universe in itself, and the mind is its radiant center. It is the sun that gives light and life to your entire system as it revolves around the whole. Your conscious thought is the master of this solar center. As Emily says, conscious thought can place the subconscious mind above obstacles. Can you tell me how much salt water or how much of each different element needs to be in the blood to maintain the proper specific gravity for leading an ordinary sedentary life, or how much and at what rate these proportions need to change if you're playing a fast tennis match, driving, chopping wood, or engaging in any other vigorous exercise. Do you know how much water you need to drink to neutralize excess salt after eating salted fish? Or how much you lose through sweating? Do you know how much water, salt, or each different element in your food needs to be absorbed by your blood each day to maintain perfect health? Well, you shouldn't worry about this, nor should anyone else, because even the best physicists, chemists, and mathematicians don't know. However, you know who does? Yes, your subconscious mind. And for that, it doesn't need to stop and do calculations. It does it automatically, like one of those lightning calculators, and that's just one of the thousands of tasks it performs every hour of the day. Even the greatest mathematicians on Earth, or the most renowned chemists, couldn't solve in a year the obscure problems that your subconscious mind resolves every minute. It doesn't matter if you've studied mathematics, chemistry, or any other science since birth. Your subconscious mind solves all these problems for you while you struggle with the 3 R's. It manages problems that would leave your teachers astonished, oversees all the complex processes of digestion, assimilation, elimination, as well as all glandular secretions that would challenge the knowledge of all the chemists and laboratories in the country. It has planned and built your body since childhood, repairs it, makes it function, possessing an almost unlimited power not only to keep you in perfect health, but also to acquire all the good things in life. Ignorance of this power is the only reason for all failures in this world. If you intelligently engage with this wonderful power in your business and personal affairs, just as you entrust it with the mechanism of your body, no ambition would be too great for you to achieve. Dr. J.O.C. Pixar summarizes the power of the subconscious mind very well as follows. The subconscious is a distinct entity that occupies the entire human body, and when not faced with any opposition, has absolute control over all the functions, conditions, and sensations of the body. On the other hand, the objective or conscious mind controls all our voluntary functions and movements, while the subconscious mind controls all involuntary and vegetative silent functions, nutrition, waste, secretions and excretions, heart action in blood circulation, lungs in respiration, and all cellular life. Changes and development of cells are positively under the complete control of the subconscious mind. It was the only faculty that the animal had before the evolution of the brain, a mind that could not and still cannot reason inductively, but despite that, its deductive reasoning power is perfect. Furthermore, it can see without using physical eyes, perceiving the world through intuition. It also has the power to communicate with others without the aid of ordinary physical means, and can read other people's thoughts, receiving and transmitting intelligence at a distance. Since the latter does not resist the successful missions of the subconscious mind, and since it never dies, we call it the soul mind as it acts like a living soul. In Practical Psychology and David Bush's Sexual Life, Dr. Wimbliger goes even further by saying that it is this same mind that performs the work of assimilation and construction while we sleep. It reveals things that the conscious mind does not conceive until they occur. It can communicate with other minds without ordinary physical means, and is capable of perceiving things that ordinary sight does not envision. It makes the presence of God a real and achievable fact, and keeps the personality in peace and tranquility by warning the mind of the proximity of danger, or by approving or disapproving of behavior or conversation. It is the one that accomplishes all that it is given, provided that the conscious mind does not intercept and alter the course of its manifestation. It also heals the body and maintains it in good health if directed in that direction. We then understand that, in summary, it is the most powerful force of life and, when directed correctly, is also the most beneficial. However, like an active electric cable, its destructive power is also great. Thus it can be your servant or your master, bringing both good and evil to your life. The Reverend William Walsh, in a newly published book, explains this idea with great clarity. The subconscious part of us is called the subjective mind because it neither decides nor commands, acting more as a subject than as a sovereign. Its nature is to do what it is told or what it truly desires deep down. The conscious mind directs all the vital processes of your body. You don't consciously think about breathing, because every time you breathe, you don't need to reason, decide, or command. It's the subconscious mind that takes care of it. You weren't even aware that you were breathing while listening to this. The same goes for blood circulation. The heart is not a muscle like the arm. It does not have the power to move itself or direct its action. Only the mind that can think can direct our muscles, including the heart. You are not aware that you are ordering your heart to beat. It's the subconscious mind that handles it. The same applies to food assimilation, building and repairing your body. In fact, all vital processes are managed by the subconscious mind. Man lives, moves, and exists within this great subconscious mind, which provides intuition, a trait that often guides a woman directly to the point of reasoning for which a man would need hours of painstaking thought to achieve. Even in ordinary everyday affairs, we often call upon its wonderful wisdom without even realizing it. Consider, for example, the case of Tom, the blind man. You've probably heard of him or read about him. You know he could listen to a musical piece for the first time and then immediately go to the piano to reproduce it. People call this abnormal, but in reality, in this domain, he was more normal than all of us. We are abnormal compared to him, unable to do the same. You might also consider the case of prodigious calculators, those strange individuals we occasionally read about. It could be a child of 7 or 8 years old, whom you might ask to divide 7,649,437 by 326,256, and he would give you the result in less time than it would take you to write the numbers on paper. You call this phenomenal. However, you should be able to perform the same calculation instantly. Your subconscious mind is perfectly capable of it. Dr. Hudson, in his book The Law of Psychic Phenomena, talks about many prodigies of this kind. Here are a few examples. There have been more than 20 mathematical prodigies whose calculations surpassed in speed and accuracy those of the greatest scholarly mathematicians. These prodigies performed their most remarkable feats when they were children aged 3 to 10 years. In all cases, these children had no idea how they were performing their calculations. Some even conversed about other topics while adding. 2 of these children became eminent men, while others showed only a modest degree of objective intelligence. One of them described his own gift in these terms. Indeed, there was something special about my calculating ability. It began to manifest between the ages of 5 and 6 and lasted for about 3 years. Very quickly I was able to perform the most difficult calculations mentally, as I knew nothing about numbers beyond basic enumeration. Thus, I did additions much faster than anyone on paper, and I never remember making the slightest mistake. But when I went to school, my passion disappeared. I was a perfect 0 in arithmetic from then on. Professor Safford became an astronomer at the age of 10 and correctly solved a manipulation problem whose answer had 36 digits. However, later in life, he could no longer perform such feats. At the age of 6, Benjamin Holt Blade asked his father what time he was born. He was told he was born at 4 o'clock. Looking at the current time on the watch, he informed his father of the number of seconds he had lived. His father checked the calculation and said to Benjamin, "You are wrong, it's 172,000 seconds." The boy replied, "Oh, Dad, you forgot the 2 days for the leap years of 1820 and 1824. Then there is the famous case of Sarah Cold, as described by Dr. Schofield. Sarah Colbum could instantly state that the square root of 106,129 was 327, and the cube root of 268,336,125 was 645. Before even the question about the number of minutes in 48 years was written, he said 25,228, 8 and 10. He immediately gave the factors of 247,483 as 941 and 263, which are the only two. When asked about those of 36,083, he replied that there were none. It is a prime number. He could not say how he arrived at the answer and could not perform simple multiplication or division on paper. There will come a time, as predicted by H.G. Wells in his book Men Like Gods, when schools and teachers will no longer be necessary, except to show us how to access the infinite knowledge that our subconscious minds have possessed since childhood. The smartest man in the world, as Dr. Brand Crane puts it in a recent Liberty article, is the inner man. By inner man, I am referring to that other person within each of us who accomplishes most of the things we attribute to ourselves. You can call it nature, the subconscious self, or perhaps simply consider it as a force or a natural law. Even if you have a religious inclination, you might use the term God. I say that the smartest man in the world is infinitely more intelligent and ingenious than I or any other person I have heard of. When I cut my finger, it is he who calls the little phagocytes to come kill the septic germs that might infect the wound and cause blood poisoning. He is the one who coagulates the blood, stops the bleeding, and knits the new skin. I couldn't do it. I don't even know how he does it. He does it even with babies who know nothing. In fact, he does it better with them than with me. No living person knows enough to grow toenails, but the inner man does not think about growing nails or teeth or thousands of hairs all over the body. He puts hair on the head and fur on the rest of the skin. When I practice the piano, I simply transfer the task of playing the piano from my conscious mind to my subconscious mind. In other words, I hand the task over to the inner man. Most of our happiness, as well as our struggles and miseries, come from this inner man. If we train him in the ways of joy, adjustment, and decision, he will go before us as a well-trained servant. He will even easily accomplish most of the difficult tasks we have to perform. The famous specialist Dr. John asserts that the subconscious mind contains not only all the knowledge acquired during individual life, but also all the wisdom of past eras. By tapping into this wisdom and power, an individual can possess everything good in life, from health and happiness to wealth and success. You see, the subconscious mind is the connecting link between the Creator and us, between the universal mind and our conscious mind. It is the means by which we can claim all the good gifts, all the wealth and abundance that the universal mind has created with such profusion. Vertellot, the great French founder of modern synthetic chemistry, once stated in a letter to a close friend that the final experiments leading to his most wonderful discoveries were not the result of carefully followed and reasoned trains of thought, but, on the contrary, came by themselves, so to speak, from the clear sky. Charles M. Barros, in his work on medicine, tells us that if a man needs a consciousness other than the ordinary to watch over him while he sleeps, this same psychic provision is no less useful when he is awake. Many people are even able to acquire knowledge that does not come through their usual senses, but arrives directly in their minds through communication with another conscious intelligence, seemingly more aware of their well-being than their ordinary reason. I have known several people like myself who could distinguish the contents of their mail before opening it. Several years ago, a friend of mine came to Boston for the first time and arrived at what was then the Providence Railroad Station at Park Square. He wanted to walk to the Lowell Station, located at the other end of the city. Not knowing the streets or the general direction to take, he set out without asking for directions and arrived at his destination by the most direct route. He relied solely on what he called his instinctive guide, not on any indications obtained through his senses. Geniuses in literature, art, commerce, government, politics, and invention are, according to scientists, no more than ordinary men like you and me, men who have somehow learned to call upon their subconscious minds. It is said that Sir Isaac Newton acquired his wonderful knowledge in mathematics and physics without any conscious effort. Mozart claimed that his beautiful symphonies came to him effortlessly. Descartes did not receive a conventional education. Thus, quoting Dr. Hudson, "It is a power that transcends reason and is independent of induction. The examples of its development could be multiplied indefinitely. We know enough to conclude that when the soul is freed from its objective environment, it is capable of perceiving all the laws of its being, seeing God as he is through the perception of the laws he has instituted. Knowledge of this power demonstrates our true relationship with God, provides assurance of our right to the title of children of God, and confirms our inheritance of his attributes and powers. We are heirs of God, joint heirs with Jesus Christ. Our subconscious minds are vast and powerful, capable of drawing from the universal mind unlimited knowledge, unlimited power, unlimited wealth. Considered from the perspective of its activities, says Warren Hilton in Applied Psychology, the subconscious is that part of the mind which, on the one hand, directs the vital operations of the body, and on the other hand, keeps under the guard of interest and attention all ideas and complexes that are not active at the moment in consciousness. Observe the possibilities before you. On the one hand, if you can control your mind in its subconscious activities, you can regulate the functioning of your bodily functions and thus ensure bodily efficiency and guard against functional diseases. On the other hand, if you can determine which ideas should move from the subconscious to the conscious mind, you can select the materials with which your conscious judgments, decisions, and emotional attitudes are woven. First, achieving control over your mind then allows you to attain health, witness success, and be happy. However, few understand or appreciate the vast reservoir of knowledge and power that the subconscious can offer when used at will. Occasionally, through intense concentration or a very active desire, we accidentally penetrate into the realm of the subconscious and record our thoughts there. These thoughts almost always come to fruition. The problem is that most of the time it is our negative thoughts, our fears more precisely, that penetrate and materialize with the same certainty as positive thoughts. What must be done is to learn to communicate to the subconscious mind only the thoughts one wishes to see realized, as it is highly receptive to suggestion. Have you heard about the man who always boasted of his good health and whose friends decided to play a trick on him? The first person he met one morning commented on how bad he looked and asked if he wasn't feeling well. Then everyone else who saw him made similar comments. By noon, the man had begun to believe it, and by the end of the day, he was genuinely ill. It was quite an obvious example, but similar things happen to us every day. We eat something that someone tells us is bad for us, and shortly after, we begin to feel discomfort. Before we even realize it, we have indigestion. The worst part is that if we had no knowledge of the supposed indigestible properties of that food, we might eat it every day without ever experiencing a negative effect. As soon as a new disease is discovered and its symptoms are described in the newspaper, hundreds of people will immediately contract it. It's like that man who read a medical encyclopedia and concluded that he had everything except the servant's knee. Patent medicine advertisers are aware of this power and exploit it. Read one of their ads. If you don't think you have all the ailments their medicines are supposed to cure, you are the exception, not the rule. This is the negative side. Emily based her system on the positive side, where you suggest to your subconscious mind that the ailments you believe you are suffering from are improving. It is good psychology, and if properly applied, it can work wonders. But there are better methods, and I hope to show you these before we reach the end of this text. It is already quite clear that your subconscious mind is extremely wise and powerful. It knows many things that are not found in books, and when used correctly, it has infallible judgment and unparalleled power. It never sleeps, never tires. Your conscious mind can be asleep, rendered powerless by anesthesia or a sudden blow, but your subconscious mind continues to work, keeping your heart, lungs, arteries, and glands functioning under normal conditions. It faithfully performs its functions and leaves the direction of the body's external life to the subconscious mind. However, if the conscious mind encounters a situation it cannot handle and calls upon the subconscious mind, this powerful genius will immediately respond to its need. Have you ever heard people say that after facing a great danger where death seemed imminent and they could do nothing, everything would go dark for them, and when they regained their senses, the danger had passed? At the moment of need, their subconscious mind pushed their consciousness out of the way and overcame the danger. Guided by the subconscious mind, their bodies could perform feats completely impossible for their ordinary conscious selves, because the power of the subconscious mind is unlimited. Thus, everything necessary for you to achieve what you desire in any scenario can be provided, along with the ability to do it. Everything good that you desire, the subconscious can bring to you. This is what is meant when it is said that the kingdom of heaven dwells within you, in the universal mind. Have you ever dug up a potato and seen the potatoes clustering underneath? To what degree of intelligence do you think each of these potatoes possesses? Do you think they know anything about chemistry, geology, or how to absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, water, and all types of nutrients from the surrounding soil to make sugar, starch, and cotton without any chemicals? How could a potato know this? Of course it doesn't know, yet it accomplishes all these things. It converts starch into cells, cells into roots, vines and leaves, and thus produces more potatoes. You might say it's thanks to Old Mother Nature, but this Old Mother Nature must have extraordinary intelligence if she can solve all these things that no human scientist has been able to discover. There must be an omnipresent intelligence behind Mother Nature, an intelligence that brought life to this planet, that evolved all forms of plants and animals, that controls the winds, and that is omniscient and omnipotent. The potato is merely a small manifestation of that intelligence. The various forms of plant, animal, and human life are just cogs in the grand scheme of things, but with the difference that humans are an active part of this universal consciousness, participating in its wisdom and creative powers. By working in harmony with the universal mind, one can become anything, possess anything, be anything, within yourself and in every being. There is a powerful, resistance-free force with which you can achieve enterprises that will dazzle reason and astonish your imagination. Within you constantly resides an omniscient and omnipotent mind, completely separate from the mind you use consciously in your daily affairs, yet united with it. Your subconscious mind shares in this wisdom and power, and it is through it that you can tap into to achieve everything you desire. When you can intelligently reach your subconscious mind, you are in communication with the universal mind. Remember this, the universal mind is omnipotent, and since the subconscious mind is part of the universal mind, there are no limits to the things they can accomplish when empowered to act. Given that every desire is in harmony with the universal mind, you have no choice but to keep that desire in your thoughts to attract the necessary things from the invisible realm to fulfill it. The mind is built solely with the power of thought. Its creations take shape according to your thoughts. To do this, your first requirement is a mental image, formed by the unwavering desire for a purpose. Understanding this principle explains the power of prayer. The results of prayer are not achieved through a special favor from providence. God is not a finite being to be flattered to obtain what one desires. But when you pray fervently, a mental image of what you desire forms and is firmly held in your thoughts. Then the universal intelligence, which is your own intelligence, begins to work with you and for you, ultimately producing the manifestation you desire. The universal mind is omnipresent around you, as present as the air you breathe, surrounding you as naturally as seawater surrounds fish. Yet, it is as aware of you as water is of all the creatures that live in it. It might seem difficult to believe that a mind occupied with the vastness of the universe could concern itself with such trivial matters as ours, considering we are just one among billions of forms of life. However, think again. To the seawater, the fish are not a problem to encompass. Similarly, to the universal mind, we are not difficult to encompass, as its power and thought are as accessible to us as the sun, the wind, and the rain. Few fully harness these great forces, and even fewer exploit the power of the universal mind. If you experience lack, if you are afflicted by poverty or illness, it is because you do not believe in or understand the power that belongs to you. It is not that the universal mind refuses to give. It offers everything to everyone impartially. All who are thirsty come to the waters. It is enough to take from the water of life freely. With all your possession, get understanding, said Solomon. If you get understanding, everything else will be added to you. The purpose and end of this course is to make you realize the intense power within you that you are not using, and then to teach you simple and direct methods to tap into it. The primary cause of this city, with all its houses, palaces, steam engines, cathedrals, the immense and immeasurable traffic and tumult, is nothing other than a thought, millions of thoughts united into one. The vastness and immeasurability of the mind of a thought live, embodied in the bricks, iron, smoke, dust, palaces, parliaments, carriages, docks, and everything else. Not a single brick has been made without a person having thought of making it. For thousands of years, the enigma of the universe has been the question of causality. Was it the egg or the chicken first? According to an Eastern proverb, the globe rests on the back of an elephant. The elephant is on a turtle, and the turtle swims in an ocean of milk. What does this mean? What is life, as the Persian poet would say, which rushes on without asking where to go? It has been said that every person, conscious or unconscious, is either a materialist or an idealist. Certainly, through the ages, philosophical schools and individuals have debated and fought, but human thought, through one or another of these channels, has rolled from the hill of speculation to the ocean of doubt. The materialist essentially declares that there is nothing but matter and the forces inherent in it. The idealist declares that everything is spirit or energy, and that matter is necessarily unreal. The time has come when people are not satisfied with these endless theories that lead nowhere. Today, as the appreciation of a primary cause is defined more clearly, the spiritual instinct asserts itself with determination. "Give me a point of support," said Archimedes, "and with a lever I will lift the world." The true point of support is that everything began with the mind. In the beginning, there was nothing, only a mist of fire. Before anything could emerge, there had to be an idea, a model on which to build. The universal mind provided that idea, that model. Thus, the primary cause is the mind. Everything must begin with an idea. Every event, every condition, everything starts first with an idea in someone's mind. Before starting to build a house, one draws a plan of what one wishes. Similarly, every object in the material world starts with a plan drawn in the mind. Thought forms the plan, well or poorly drawn depending on whether your thoughts are clear or vague. Everything traces back to the single cause. The creative principle of the universe is the mind, and thought is the eternal energy. But just as the effect obtained from elasticity depends on the mechanism to which it is attached, the effects obtained from the mind depend on how it is used. We are all dynamos. The energy is there. It is limited, but we must focus it on something. Assign it a task. Give it work. Otherwise, we will be no better than animals. The 7 wonders of the world were built by men who had far fewer opportunities or facilities compared to those available to you. They conceived these gigantic projects first in their own minds and imagined them so vividly that their subconscious minds came to their aid and enabled them to overcome obstacles that most of us would consider insurmountable. Imagine the construction of the pyramids of Giza, moving huge stones onto other huge stones with nothing but their bare hands. Imagine the work, sweat, and hard labor involved in erecting the Colossus of Rhodes, through which a ship could pass between its legs. Yet men built these wonders at a time when tools were very rudimentary and machinery inconceivable, using only the unlimited power of the mind. The mind is creative, but it must have a model to work with. It must have thoughts that provide the energy. There are ideas in the universal mind for millions of wonders, far greater than the 7 wonders of the world, and these ideas are as available to you as they were to the artisans of old, to Michelangelo when he built St. Peter's in Rome, to the architect who designed the Woolworth Building, or to the engineer who planned the Hell Gate Bridge. Every condition, every experience of life is the result of our mental attitude. We can only do what we think we can do. We can only be what we think we can be. We can only have what we think we can have. What we do, what we are, what we have, all depends on what we think. We can never express something that we have not first had in the mind. The secret to all power, all success, and all wealth lies in thinking first of powerful thoughts. Thoughts of success, wealth, and abundance. We must build everything we want first in our own minds. William James, the famous psychologist, stated that the greatest discovery in 100 years was the discovery of the power of the unconscious. Knowing that man has within him the power to control his environment, that he is not at the mercy of chance or luck, that he is the arbiter of his own destiny and can forge his own fate, master of all the forces around him. As James said, "Dream great dreams, and you will become what you dream." Your vision is the promise of what you will become someday, your ideal. It is the prophecy of what you will eventually reveal. For matter is ultimately nothing more than a product of thought. Even the most materialistic scientists admit that matter is not what it seems to be. According to physics, matter, whether it is the human body or a tree trunk, is composed of a set of tiny, distinct particles called atoms. Considered individually, these atoms are so small that they can only be seen with the aid of a powerful microscope if they are visible at all. Is matter a dream or a reality? Until recently, it was assumed that these atoms constituted the definitive theory of matter. It was assumed that we ourselves and everything around us in the material world were composed of these tiny particles of matter, so small that they could not be seen, touched, or felt individually, but were considered indestructible particles of matter. Now, however, these atoms have been more deeply analyzed, and physics tells us that they are not indestructible at all, but simply units of force or energy called protons and electrons without hardness, density, solidity, or positive actuality. In summary, they are vortices in the ether, dynamic pieces of energy never static, pulsing with life but with spiritual life. As one eminent British scientist said, "Science now explains matter by explaining it." And thus is what the solid table in front of you is made of, what your house, your body, the entire world is made of, pieces of energy spinning. Quoting the New York Herald Tribune of March 11, 1926, "We used to believe that the universe was composed of an indeterminate number of classes of matter, one class for each chemical element. The discovery of a single element was of all the interest of the unexpected. It could be anything, have any imaginable set of properties. That romantic perspective no longer exists today. Now we know that instead of many types of ultimate matter, there are only two types, and both are actually types of electricity. One is negative electricity, which is actually the tiny particle called the electron, known to radio enthusiasts as one of the particles that make radio vacuum tubes work. The other type of electricity is positive, and its ultimate particles are called protons. From these protons and electrons, all chemical elements are constructed. Iron, lead, oxygen, gold, and all the others differ only by the number and arrangement of electrons and protons they contain. This is the modern idea of the nature of matter. Matter is actually nothing more than electricity. You might then be surprised that scientists believe a time will come when humanity will be able to control all this energy through the mind, to be the absolute master of winds and waves, and literally follow the master's precept. If you had faith like a mustard seed, you would say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it would move. Then nothing would be impossible. For modern science is increasingly approaching the belief that what we call matter is a force entirely subject to the control of the mind. In fact, a simple violin string tuned to the right pitch can cause a vibration that shakes the Brooklyn Bridge, the best example of the subtlety of matter. Oceans and mountains, rocks and iron, everything can be reduced to something almost spiritual. Your body is composed of 85% water and 15% ash and phosphorus, which in turn can dissipate into gases and vapor. Where do we go from there? The answer is that at least to a large extent, and perhaps entirely, this world around us is a creation of our own mind, and what we can put into and get out of it essentially depends on what we say. This is illustrated every day. A landscape stretches out before you. For you it is a beautiful picture, but for another it may just seem like a collection of rocks and trees. A person comes to meet you. For you they are a beauty. But for another, all that grace and beauty may seem monotonous and commonplace. A moonlit garden with its fragrant odors and dew-soaked grass might mean everything charming to you, while for another it only evokes thoughts of asthma, fever, or rheumatism. A color might be green to you, while to another it is red. A perspective might be appealing to you, but to another it is harsh and difficult. As applied psychology expert Warren Hilton says, the same stimulus acting on different sense organs will produce different sensations. A blow to the eye will make you see stars, while a similar blow to the ear will make you hear an explosive sound. In other words, the vibratory effect of contact on the eye or the ear is the same as that of vibrations of light or sound. The perception one can form of any object in the external world depends solely on the part of our brain connected to that particular nerve receiving an impression of the object. We see the sun without being able to hear it, because the only peripheral nerves tuned to vibrate in harmony with the etheric waves set in motion by the sun are those connected to the cerebral center dedicated to sight. As Professor James says, if we could connect the outer ends of our optic nerves with our ears, and those of our auditory nerves with our eyes, we would hear the ray and see the thunder, hear the symphony and see the conductor's movements. In other words, the type of impressions we receive from the world around us, the type of mental images we form about it, even the nature of the external world, the environment in which our lives unfold. All these things simply depend on our individual mental constitution. In summary, it all comes down to the old fable of the three blind men and the elephant. To one who grasped its leg, the elephant was like a tree. To one who felt its side, the elephant was like a wall. To one who took its tail, the elephant was like a rope. The world is to each of us what our individual perceptions show us. You are like a radio station. At every moment, thousands of impressions reach you. You can tune into whichever you want: joy or sorrow, success or failure, optimism or fear. You can select the particular impressions that serve you best. You can listen only to what you want to hear, exclude even all unpleasant thoughts, sounds, and experiences, or you can tune into discouragement, failure, and despair. The choice is yours. You have within you a force against which the entire world is powerless. By using it, you can make of life and your environment whatever you wish. But you might say, the objects themselves do not change. It is simply a matter of how we see them. Perhaps. However, to a large extent, we find what we seek, just as when we turn the dial of a radio to tune into whatever type of entertainment or instruction we want to listen to. Who can say that it is not our thoughts that put it there, and who can prove that our environment in waking hours is not as much a creation of our mind as our dreams? How many times have you had dreams where every object seemed as real as when you were awake? You pinched yourself, and yet you were convinced you were living those dreams. Is it possible that your waking existence is largely a creation of your own mind, just like the images of your dreams? Many scientists believe this to be true, and that to the extent you try to attract into your environment the good things you desire rather than the bad things you fear, you will find those good things. It is true that you can do it with your own body. It is equally true that many people who apply this to the good things in life have surpassed the notion that matter is master. Just as the most powerful forces of nature are invisible, heat, light, air, electricity, the most powerful forces of man are his invisible forces, his forces of thought. And just as electricity can melt stone and iron, the forces of your thoughts can control your body and make or break your destiny. The story of the enchanted philosopher. Once upon a time there was a clever alchemist who told a king he had discovered a way to turn sand into gold. Naturally, the king was interested and offered him great rewards for his secret. The alchemist explained his process, which seemed quite simple, except for one thing. The king was never to think of the word abracadabra during the operation. If he ever did, the enchantment would be broken and the gold would not come. The king tried to follow the instructions, but could not keep the word abracadabra out of his mind, and thus he never succeeded in producing gold. Dr. Windbigger expresses this same idea in another way. Inspiration, genius, power are often hindered by the interference of the conscious mind, by the fact that man does not recognize his power and is afraid to help himself as he lacks faith in himself, which would be necessary to stimulate the subconscious to awaken the dormant genius within. Since childhood, we have been assured everywhere by scientists, philosophers, and religious teachers that the earth belongs to us and everything on it. From the very first chapter of Genesis, we are told that God said, "Let us make man in our image according to our likeness, and let him have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." Throughout the Old and New Testaments, we are urged to use the powers that God has given us. "He who believes in me," says Jesus, "the works that I do he will do also, and greater works than these he will do, because I go to my Father. And whatever you ask in my name that I will do, that the Father may be glorified in the Son. If you ask anything in my name, I will do it. For assuredly I say to you, if anyone says to this mountain, 'Be removed and cast into the sea,' and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that those things he says will be done, he will have whatever he says. Therefore I say to you, whatever things you ask when you pray, believe that you receive them, and you will have them. The kingdom of God is within you. We hear all this, perhaps even think we believe it, but when it comes time to use these God-given talents, doubt arises in our hearts. Baudouin clearly expressed this. Being ambitious about wealth and yet always hoping to be poor, and always doubting your ability to get what you desire, is like trying to go east by traveling west. There is no philosophy that helps a man succeed when he constantly doubts his ability to do so, attracting failure to oneself, going in the direction one is located. There is a saying that every time the sheep bleats, it loses a mouthful of hay. Every time you allow yourself to complain about your lot by saying, "I am poor. I will never be able to do what others do. I will never be rich. I do not have the abilities that others have. I am a failure. Luck is against me." All you accumulate are problems for yourself. No matter your efforts to achieve success, if your thoughts are saturated with the fear of failure, this fear will kill your efforts, neutralize your commitments, and make success impossible. And that is what is responsible for all our failures. We are like the old woman who decided she wanted to remove the hill behind her house. So she knelt and prayed to the good Lord to remove it. The next morning she got up and went to the window. The hill was still in the same place as before. "I knew it," she said. "I gave it a chance, but I knew all along there was nothing to it." Prayer is not made in the usual way either. Prayer is not a mere request for favors. Prayer is not a song of praise. Prayer is rather the realization of God's power within you, your right to have dominion over your own body, your environment, your business, your health, your prosperity. It is understanding that you are an heir of God and a co-heir with Christ, and as such no evil has power over you, while you have all the power for good. And good does not simply mean holiness. Good means happiness, the happiness of ordinary people. Good means everything that is good in our world, such as comforts and pleasures, individual prosperity, health and happiness for all those who depend on us. There are no limits to good, except those we impose on ourselves. What made Napoleon the greatest conqueror of his time? Mainly his magnificent faith. He had a sublime belief in his destiny, an absolute confidence that there was no obstacle he could not cross, overcome, or bypass. Only when he lost that confidence, when he doubted and hesitated for weeks between retreat and advance, did winter catch him in Moscow and end his dreams of a world empire. Destiny had initially given him every chance. Winter's snows arrived a month late, but Napoleon wavered and failed. It was not the snows that defeated him nor the Russians, but rather the loss of faith in himself. The kingdom of heaven is within us. Heaven is not a distant state or the reward for years of tribulations. Heaven is here and now. When Christ said that heaven was within us, he meant exactly what he said, that the power for happiness, for good, and for everything we need in life can be found within each of us. In fact, most of us do not realize this heaven because many are sick and suffering, and others are overwhelmed by poverty and worry. It is not their fault. He gave us the power to overcome these ills. He is ready and waiting to help us use it. If we do not find the way, it is our fault. To enjoy the heaven within us and start living the eternal life here and now, all it takes is a more complete understanding of the power within us. Even now, with the limited knowledge we have, we can control circumstances to the point of making the external world an expression of our own inner world, where true thoughts and true power reside. Through this inner world you can find the solution to every problem, the cause of every effect. Discover it, and all power and possession will be under your control. The external world is merely a reflection of the inner world. Your thoughts create the conditions that your mind imagines. Keep in your mind the image of everything you want to be, and you will see it reflected in the external world. Think of abundance, feel abundance, believe in abundance, and you will see it manifest in your daily life. To do this, cast aside fear and worry as your mental companions. Let thoughts of poverty and limitation no longer inhabit your mind. Let worry, fear, limitation, and poverty cease to be your constant companions day and night. Your mental concept is all that matters. The relationship with matter is idea and form. There must be an idea before something can take form. As Dr. Terry Walter says, the impressions that enter the subconscious form indelible images that are never forgotten. and whose power can change the body, mind, manner, and morals. This can even revolutionize a personality. Throughout all our waking hours, the conscious mind, through the five senses, acts as a constant food source for the subconscious. The senses are the temporary source of supply for the content of the mind, the soul. Therefore, it is very important that we know and fully realize that every time we think a thought or feel an emotion, we add to the content of this powerful mind, whether good or bad. Life will be richer or poorer based on today's thoughts and actions. Your thoughts provide you with unlimited energy that will take any form your mind requests. Thoughts are the mold that crystallizes this energy for better or worse, depending on the form you give it. You are free to choose which one you want, but whichever you choose, the result is assured. Thoughts of wealth, power, and success can only bring results consistent with your idea of them. Thoughts of poverty and lack can only bring limitations and problems. It is a radical doctrine, you might say, and you may think I am terribly optimistic, as the world has long been taught to believe that some must be rich while others are poor, that trials and tribulations are our lot, and that life is at best a vale of tears. The history of the human race shows that what is considered the learning of one era is the ignorance of the next. Dr. Edwin J. Dingle, editor of the Science Service, speaking about the popular tendency to resist new ideas simply because they are new, said, "Throughout the history of consciousness, we find that new ideas must carve their way into the common mind, disguised as thieves rather than as benefactors of the race." And Emerson wrote, "Virtue in the majority of demands is conformity. Self-sufficiency is its aversion. It does not like realities and creators, but names and customs." In the times to come, man will look back at the poverty and misery of so many millions today and think how foolish we have been not to take advantage of the abundance surrounding us. Look at nature. See how lavish it is in everything. Do you believe that the mind which conceived this profusion ever intended for us to be limited, or that we should have to save and ration for a minimal existence? There are hundreds of millions of stars in the sky. Do you think that the mind which could create countless worlds with such prodigality meant to deprive you of the few things necessary for your happiness? What is money but a mere mental idea, a medium of exchange? The paper money in your pockets is supposed to represent gold and silver, and yet all the gold in the world totals only about $8 trillion. Wealth resides in ideas, not in money or property. You can control these ideas through the mind. Reduced to the atom or the electron, everything in this world is an idea of the mind. Everything has been assembled through the mind. If we can transform the things we desire into mental images, we can multiply them as many times as we want, simply by wishing. Consider the example of number science. Suppose all numbers were made of metal and it was forbidden to write digits ourselves. Every time you wanted to perform an arithmetic addition, you would need to obtain digits, arrange them in the right order, and solve your problems with them. If your problems were too abstract, you might find yourself without digits and have to borrow them from your neighbor or the bank. How ridiculous, you say. Digits are not things. They are just ideas we can add, divide, multiply, or subtract as many times as we want. Everyone can have all the digits they want exactly in the same way. So when you begin to see money in the same manner, you will have all the money you desire. To the one who has, more will be given, and he will have abundance, but from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. Thought externalizes. What we are depends entirely on the images we hold in the eye of our mind. Every time we think, we start a chain of causes that will create conditions similar to the thoughts that originated them. Every thought we maintain in our consciousness for a given period is imprinted in our subconscious mind and creates a pattern that the mind weaves into our life or environment. All power comes from within and is therefore under our own control. When you direct your thought processes, you can consciously apply them to any condition, as everything we receive from the external world is what we have already imagined in our inner world. Do you want more money? Sit quietly and realize that money is nothing more than an idea your mind possesses. Ideas are unlimited, as we are part of the universal mind. There is no limitation or scarcity. In one way or another, the ideas that will bring you all the money you need for any correct purpose will be available to you. You simply need to entrust your subconscious mind with the task of finding these ideas, becoming aware of them, and your need will be fulfilled. What you desire when you pray, believe that you will receive it and you will have it. Don't forget this. Believe that you will receive it. It is what your subconscious mind imagines about what you want, and that is what brings it to you. Once you can clearly imagine this belief in your subconscious, everything you ask for, you will receive. Because the source of everything good, of everything you desire, is the universal mind, and you can only access it through the subconscious. Thus the universal mind will be to you whatever you believe it is, the loving and benevolent Father that Jesus imagined, always concerned with the well-being of his children, or the fearsome judge that so many dogmatists want us to believe it is. When a man realizes that his mind is part of the universal mind and understands that it is enough to bring any correct aspiration to the universal mind to see it fulfilled, he loses all sense of worry and fear. By learning to master instead of retreating, he rises to face any situation, confident that everything necessary to solve any problem is in the mind, and that he only needs to bring his problem to the universal mind for it to be properly resolved. For if you take a drop of water from the ocean, you know it has the same properties as the rest of the ocean water, the same percentage of sodium chloride. The only difference between it and the ocean is volume. If you take a spark of electricity, you know it has the same properties as lightning, the same energy that powers trains or drives giant machines in factories. Again, the only difference here is volume. It is the same with your mind and the universal mind. The only difference between them is volume. Your mind has the same property as the universal mind, the same creative genius, the same power over the whole earth, the same access to all knowledge. Know this, believe it, use it, and you will be the earth and its fullness in the exact proportion that you believe yourself to be part of the universal mind, sharing its all-powerful power. In this proportion, you will be able to demonstrate your control over your own body and the world around you. All knowledge, all supply comes from the inner world. If you want to have power, if you want to have wealth, you only need to imagine it in this inner world, in your subconscious mind through belief and understanding. If you want to eliminate discord, you only need to eliminate erroneous images, images of poor health, worry, and internal problems. The problem for most of us is that we live entirely in the outer world. We are unaware of the inner world, which is responsible for all the conditions we encounter and all the experiences we have. We have no conception of the Father that is within us. The inner world promises us life, health, prosperity, and happiness, in addition to control over the whole earth. It promises peace and perfection for all its descendants. It gives you the right way and the right manner to achieve any just goal. Business, work, professions exist mainly for thought, and the result of your efforts in these is regulated by thought. Consider also the difference in this result if you have only the limited capacity of your conscious mind compared to the unlimited energy of the subconscious and universal mind. Thought, not money, is the true capital of business, says Harvey S. Firestone. And if you absolutely know that what you are doing is right, then you are bound to achieve it in due time. Thought is a dynamic energy with the power to materialize its object from the invisible substance that surrounds us. Matter is inert and not very intelligent, while thought can shape and control any form in which matter exists today, being nothing more than the expression of some thought, desire, or idea. You have a mind, you can generate your thoughts, and thoughts are creative. Therefore, you can create for yourself what you desire. Once you realize this, you take a great step towards success in any enterprise you have in mind. More than half of the prophecies of the Scriptures concern the time when man will possess the earth, when tears and pain will be unknown, and when peace and abundance will be everywhere. This time will come, it is closer than most people believe possible, and you are contributing to it. Every man who honestly tries to use the power of the mind correctly is contributing to this great cause, for it is only through the mind that one can attain peace and abundance. The earth is filled with treasures yet undiscovered, but each of them is known to the universal mind, for it is the universal mind that first imagined them there, and as an integral part of it, they can be known by you. How then did the ancient prophets predict airplanes, cannons, and radios thousands of years ago? What genius allowed Ezekiel to move from his pottery wheel, his water wheel, and lightning to an airplane with its wheels within wheels, powered by electricity and guided by man? How can we explain the descriptions of artillery in Revelation and the astonishing statement in the Gospels that words will be transmitted from rooftops as though born? Few of us have any idea of our mental powers. The old notion that man should take the world as he finds it, according to a given position in life, and try to rise above his peers, was not only the height of bad taste but also sacrilege. An omniscient providence had decreed by birth the position a child was to occupy in the network of organized society. Any dissatisfaction with one's lot and any attempt to rise to a higher level were equivalent to defying providence. The gates of hell were wide open for such daredevils, who were lucky if they suffered no worse than the disdain of their peers in this life. This system produced aristocracy and feudalism, and it was the system that feudalism and aristocracy strived to perpetuate. The new idea, the basis of all democracies, is that man is not bound to any system, that he does not have to accept the world as he finds it, but that he can remake the world according to his own ideas, for he is nothing but raw material and can be shaped as one wishes. This new idea is responsible for all our inventions, all our progress. Man is never satisfied. He constantly remakes his world, and more than ever, he continues to do so. Psychology teaches us that everyone has within themselves the power to become what they want. Learn to control your thoughts. Learn to imagine only the things you want to see reflected out there. You will never improve by thinking about the shortcomings of your neighbors. You will never achieve perfect health and strength by focusing on weakness or illness. No man has ever scored a perfect shot by aiming at his rival's target. You must think about strength, health, and wealth. To paraphrase Pascal, our successes today are only the sum of our thoughts yesterday. Since thought is energy, mental images are concentrated energy, and concentrated energy on a specific goal becomes power for those who perceive the nature and importance of this force. All physical power sinks into insignificance. What is imagination but a form of thought? Yet at the same time, it is the instrument with which all inventors and discoverers have paved the way to new worlds. Those who grasp this force, regardless of their humble status or modest natural gifts, become our leading men, our supreme rulers and legislators, the guides of the wandering crowd, who follow them as though by an irrevocable decree. Let us quote Glenn Clark in the Atlantic Monthly. Everything we have in civilization is their work, only theirs. If progress has been made, it is due to them. If spiritual facts have been discerned, it is due to them. If justice and order have replaced insolence and chaos, it is they who forged the change. Progress is never achieved by the masses. Creation remains the task of the individual. Our railroads, our telephones, our cars, our bicycles, our newspapers, and our thousands of other conveniences and needs are due to the creative genius of only 2% of our population. And this same 2% holds a significant portion of the country's wealth. The question arises, who are they? What are they? They are the children of the wealthy. They are academic men. Not a few of them had early advantages, and many never set foot in a university. It was the dire necessity that drove them to find a way to use their mental genius, and through this inner force, to achieve success. You do not need to stumble and fumble. You can call upon your inner strengths at will. For this, 3 steps are necessary. First, realize that you have the power. Second, know what you want. And third, concentrate your thoughts on it with a single purpose. To accomplish these steps, it is enough to have a more complete understanding of the power within you. But what is this power? Where should you go to locate it? Is it a thing, a place, an object with limits, a material form or figure? So how can you find it? If you have begun to realize that there is a power within you, if you have started to awaken ambition and desire in your conscious mind to use this power, you have started the path of wisdom. If you are ready to move forward, to endure the mental discipline required to master this method, nothing in the world will be able to hinder you or prevent you from overcoming any obstacle. So start today by using what you have learned. All development comes from practice. All the forces of life are active: peace, enjoyment, power. Unused talent deteriorates. Open the door. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in to him and dine with him, and he with me. So let us use that dynamic which is within you. What will set it in motion? Your faith. Faith that is engendered by understanding. Faith is the impulse, the propulsion of this inner power. Faith is trust, security, unshakable truth, the knowledge that the right idea of life will lead you to the reality of existence and the manifestation of all power. All cause is in the mind, and the mind is everywhere. All knowledge that exists, all wisdom that exists, all power that can be summoned is within you. No matter where you are, your mind is a part of it. You have access to everything. If you do not use it, do not blame anyone but yourself. For just as a drop of water in the ocean shares all the properties of the rest of the ocean water, you share this omniscient power, this all-powerful wisdom of the mind. If you have been ill and weak, if poverty and difficulties have been your lot, do not blame fate, blame yourself. For you are already the earth and all that is in it, but you must claim it. The power is there, but you must use it. It surrounds you like the air you breathe. Do not wait for others to breathe for you. Likewise, you cannot wait for them to use your mind for you. Universal intelligence is not only the mind of the creator of the universe, but also the mind of man, your intelligence, your spirit, just as the Spirit was in Jesus Christ. So start today knowing that you can do everything you want to do, have everything you want to have, be everything you want to be. The rest will follow naturally. Ask for what you want, and your desire will be granted as the first law of gain. Ah, love, if you and I could conspire with fate to understand this sad scheme of things in its entirety, would we not break it and remold it according to the desires of our hearts, as Omar Khayyam's Rubaiyat? If you had a fairy ring, what would you wish for? Wealth, honor, glory, love. Whatever you desire above all in life, you can have it. Whatever you sincerely want, with a clear intention, you can obtain. But first and foremost, it is crucial to know exactly what it is that you want. It may seem paradoxical, but few people know what they really want. Most struggle vaguely, hoping something will appear. They are so absorbed in the struggle that they have forgotten why they are fighting, if they ever knew. They are like shipwrecked sailors, wasting their energy in aimless struggle, without thought, without direction, exhausting themselves without making progress. You must know what you want before you have a real chance of getting it. You have a messenger at the Garci, infallible, this genius in your mind, but it is up to you to formulate the message. Aladdin would have had little chance of getting anything from his genie if he had not clearly known what he wanted the genie to obtain for him. In the realm of the mind, where all practical power resides, you can possess what you want immediately. You only need to claim it, visualize it, and realize it. That is how it will become yours, for the genius of your mind can give you power over circumstances. Things like health, happiness, and prosperity will be within reach once you are seriously and intensely desirous. It seems too good to be true, doesn't it? Then let's return to the beginning, a moment when you are imbued with this divine discontent with things as they are, which has been responsible for all the great achievements in this world. Otherwise, you would not have made it this far in this text. Your heart longs for something better. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. You are tired of the worries of routine, the deadly boredom of daily routine that leads nowhere, tired of all the little ills and discomforts that arise. Thus goes the destiny of man here on earth. There is always something within you that drives you toward greater things, that gives you neither peace nor rest, nor an opportunity to be lazy. It is the same drive that led Columbus to cross the ocean, Hannibal to cross the Alps, Edison to rise from a train boy to the inventor of the century, and Henry Ford to go from a poor mechanic to probably the richest man in the world at 60. It is that something in you that keeps telling you that you can accomplish everything you want, be everything you want, have everything you want. You have a faint suspicion that this might be true, that something in you is your subconscious, the part of you that belongs to the universal mind, your brain's genius. Men call it ambition, and fortunate is the man, says Arthur Brisbane, on whom the demon of ambition relentlessly focuses and guides through life. This little and marvelous driver is the champion driver of all time and history. You are lucky if he is your driver. He will keep you moving until you achieve something worthwhile. Work, run, advance. This is how a real man should act. It is this little demon that operates in the brains of men, making the blood thrill at the thought of achievement and causing the face to redden and pale at the thought of failure. Each of us has this driving demon in youth. Unfortunately, most of us let it become very poor and hopeless, not worth guiding. When we reach 25 or 30 years old, how many men look back at their adolescence when they were clinging to the chariot of ambition as their driver, when they could hardly wait for the years to pass and opportunities to arise? The duty of ambition is to drive, and your duty is to keep ambition alive and moving forward. If nothing is done, if one does not drive, if one does not hurry, if one does not work, one can be certain that there will be no results, nothing of value in the years to come. Those destined to become great men, when most of us will be nobody in 20 years, are those for whom this demon relentlessly drives, without remorse, through hot and cold climates, through early and late hours. You are fortunate if you are in the harness and let the demon of ambition guide you. Suppose you have had disappointments, disillusionments along the way. Suppose the sharp edge of your ambition is dulled. Remember that there is no obstacle that cannot be circumvented, overcome, or crossed. And if you utilize at least 10% of the capabilities residing in your conscious mind and allow more than 90%, which constitutes your subconscious, you can overcome all obstacles. Also remember this: no condition is so desperate, no life so lost that the mind cannot redeem it. All adversity is merely a lack of something. Darkness is not real. It is simply a lack of light. Light the light and you will see that darkness is nothing. It disappears instantly. Similarly, poverty is just a lack of necessary provision. Find the way to the provision and your poverty will vanish. Illness is simply the absence of health. If you have perfect health, illness cannot harm you. Doctors and nurses move freely among the sick without fear, and generally they suffer much less from illness than the average man or woman. Thus there is nothing you need to overcome. You simply need to acquire something, and the mind can show you the way. You can obtain from the mind whatever you desire if you learn to do so. I believe we can be certain that one can practically do and be whatever one wants to be, says Farnsworth in Practical Psychology, and psychologists worldwide have expressed the same thought in 1,000 different ways. It is not will but desire, says Charles W. Myers, that rules the world. But you will say, I have had many desires all my life. I have always wanted to be rich. How do you explain the difference between my wealth, my position, and my power, and those of the other rich people around me? The magical secret. The answer is simply that you have never focused your desires on a dominant, overarching desire. You have a multitude of weak desires. You mildly desire to be rich. You would like to have a position of responsibility and influence. You would like to be able to travel at will. The desires are so numerous and varied that they conflict with each other, and you end up with nothing in particular. You lack an intense desire for which you would be willing to subordinate everything else. Do you know how Napoleon often won battles against numerically superior enemies? By concentrating his men on the point of contact. His artillery was often far superior in number, but he achieved much more than the enemy because instead of dispersing his fire, he focused it all on the point of attack. The time you spend daydreaming and desiring without direction could work wonders if it were concentrated on a specific goal. If you have ever taken a magnifying glass and let the sun's rays pass through it onto an object, you know that as long as the rays are dispersed, they accomplish nothing. But concentrate them on a small point and see how quickly they start to act. The same applies to your mind. You must focus on one idea at a time. But how can I learn to concentrate, many people ask me. Concentration is not something you have to learn. It is simply something you must do. You concentrate every time you are sufficiently interested in something, being so absorbed in a ball game that you leap from your seat to cheer for a player you've never seen before, or to embrace your closest neighbor. That is concentration. Being so absorbed in a moving play or film that you no longer realize that the orchestra is playing, or that there are people around you, that is concentration. And that is also what concentration is, being so interested in one thing that you pay no attention to anything else happening around you. If you desire something with sufficient intensity, you should not worry about your ability to concentrate on it. Your thoughts will naturally focus on it like bees to honey. Keep in mind what you desire most, affirm it, and believe that it is an existing fact. Allow me to quote the Master again, for there is nothing more important to remember from this text. Therefore I say to you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. And I repeat, the most important part is to believe that you have received it. Your subconscious mind is extremely receptive to suggestion. If you can truly believe that you have received something, you can imprint this belief into your subconscious mind. It is up to your subconscious to see what you have. For being a part of the universal mind, you share the total power of that universal mind. As the Father who dwells in me says, He does the works. Your mind will respond to your desire to the exact extent of your belief. According to your faith, it will be given to you. Those who live in beautiful homes, who have plenty to spend, who travel in yachts and luxury cars, are mostly people who began to realize a specific thing. They had a clear goal in mind, and everything they did was centered around that goal. Most men simply follow the same routine day after day, barely making a living, with no more desires than the vague hope that someday fortune will smile upon them. But fortune likes to play tricks, and a grave, differs from a furrow only by its depth. A life like this is no better than the one lived by animals, working all day for money, buying bread to give oneself strength to work all the next day to buy. There is nothing more than the daily quest for food and subsistence. No time for anything else but to worry and struggle, no hope for anything but to end the pain in death. You can have everything you desire if you want it enough. You can be everything you want to be and have everything you want to have, anything you set your mind to, if you hold firmly to that desire, if you understand and believe in your own powers to achieve it. What do you desire in life? Is it health? In the chapter on health, I will show you how you can be radiantly well, without medicines, without tedious exercises. It doesn't matter if you are disabled, bedridden, or sick. Your body completely rebuilds itself every 11 months, and you can start now to rebuild it perfectly. Is it wealth that you desire? In the chapter on success, I will show you how to increase your income, how to advance quickly in your chosen business or profession. Is it happiness you seek? Follow the rules established here, and you will change your entire outlook on life. Doubts and uncertainties will vanish, giving way to quiet security and lasting peace. You will possess the things your heart desires. You will have love and companionship, and you will gain satisfaction and happiness. But desire must be impressed upon the subconscious before it can be realized. Mere conscious desire rarely achieves anything. It's like daydreams that drift through your mind. Your desire must be visualized, pursued, focused, and imprinted into your subconscious mind. Don't worry about the means to achieve your desire. You can leave that to your subconscious mind. It knows how to do many things, in addition to building and repairing your body. If you can visualize what you want, if you can impress upon your subconscious mind the belief that you have it, you can safely leave it to your subconscious mind to find the means to obtain it. Trust the universal mind to show you the way. The mind that provides for everything in abundance must delight in seeing us take advantage of this abundance, for this is how the Father is glorified. You don't have to wait until tomorrow, next year, or the next world to be happy. You don't have to die to be saved. The kingdom of heaven is within you. This does not mean that you are in heaven on a star or in another world, but that it is here and now. All possibilities of happiness are always here and always available at the open door of life. Every man finds this pearl of great price, the understanding of man's dominion over the earth. With this understanding and conviction, you can do whatever you need to do, and you can do it for the satisfaction of all and for your own well-being. God and good are synonymous, and they are absent only for those who believe they are. Find your desire, imprint it on your mind, and you will have opened the door to opportunity. And remember, in this new heaven and new earth that I am trying to show you, the door to opportunity is never closed. In fact, you are constantly taking everything you are going to take, so remain in a state of receptivity. It is your business to receive abundantly and perpetually. The law of opportunity imposes its continuity and availability. Every good thing and every perfect gift comes from above and descends from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shadow of turning. The infinite mind says to every man, "Come to the open source." Understanding the law of life will remedy any discord, giving beauty instead of ashes, joy instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of a spirit of heaviness. Believe that you share in this goodness and generosity. Act according to the role you wish to play in this life. Act with health, prosperity, and happiness. Demonstrate with what you have to impress the conviction into your subconscious mind that all good and perfect gifts are yours. Record health, prosperity, and happiness in your inner mind, and one fine morning soon, you will wake up to find that you are healthy, prosperous, and happy, possessing your dearest desire in life, the sincere desire of your soul. Do you know what prayer is? It is simply a sincere desire that we bring before God, before the universal mind, to be realized. As Montgomery says, prayer is the sincere desire of the soul, expressed or not. That is the desire of our heart. At the very least, the only prayer worth anything is one that expresses our true desires. That is the one that is heard and answered. The mere prayers of the lips lead nowhere. What your lips say doesn't matter. What counts is what your heart desires, what your mind imagines in your subconscious thoughts through the universal mind. When you pray, don't be like the hypocrites who love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the street corners to be seen by men. Truly, I say to you, they have their reward. What was the true desire of these hypocrites that Jesus spoke of? To be seen by men, and their prayers were answered. Their sincere desire was granted. They were seen by men. Thus we might say they received their reward. But as for what their lips said, neither God nor they paid any attention to it. When you pray, enter into your secret place, and when you have shut the door, pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you openly. Find a place where you can be alone, where you can focus your thoughts on your most intimate and sincere desire, where you can impress this desire into your subconscious mind without distraction to reach the universal mind, the Father of all things. But even sincere desire is not enough by itself. There must also be belief. What you desire, when you pray, believe that you will receive it, and you will have it. You must acknowledge God's ability to give you everything that is good, and you must believe in His willingness to do so. Shape your thoughts as the psalmists of old did. First, ask for what you want. Then eliminate all doubts and fears by affirming God's power and willingness to answer your prayers. Read any psalm and you will see what I mean. So when you pray, ask for the things you want, then affirm God's willingness and His power to grant your prayer. Your power is greater than the horizon of man, and your ways of manifesting this power are more numerous than the grains of sand on the sea. Just as you maintain the stars in their course, so will you guide our steps in perfect harmony, without jolts or discord of any kind. And if we maintain our trust in you, for we know that you will keep in perfect peace the one whose mind is stayed on you, for he trusts in you, we will know that if we acknowledge you in all our ways, you will direct our paths, for you are the God of love, the dispenser of all that is good and perfect, and there is no other but you. You are omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent in all things, through all things, and above all things, the only God. For unto you belong the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. To help you think or write, know that there is no lack of ideas. Affirm your wisdom, which is greater than all hidden treasures, yet it is as instantly available for our needs as the very ground beneath our feet. For happiness there is no sorrow in heaven. Thus affirm that your joy is brighter than the midday sun, and your ways of expressing this joy are as countless as the sunbeams shining on our path. This is the kind of prayer that the psalmists of old called upon in their hours of distress. This is the kind of prayer that will bring you every good and perfect gift. Make no mistake, prayer is effective. It can accomplish anything, no matter how trivial your desires may seem. If it is right to have them, it is right to pray for them. According to a United Press article from May 3, 1926, prayer belongs as much on the playing field as it does in the pulpit. The team that prays has a good chance of succeeding said Team Laurie, a star football player from Northwestern University, to a church audience just before the Indiana Northwestern game last year. We were very concerned about the outcome, so when we saw this group of big Indiana players coming toward us, we knew we needed to do something quickly. "Comrades," I said, "I believe in prayer, and we'd better pray." We did, and we achieved a great victory. When the next game came, all the teammates prayed again. Don't think that churches have a copyright on prayer. In Prayer as a Force, Mouth Rowden compares the person who entrusts his desires to prayer with the swimmer who entrusts himself to the water. Allow me to give you a very simple metaphor that I believe conveys my meaning. If you try to swim, you must believe that the sea will keep you afloat. You must surrender to the sea. There's the ocean, and you are in it. So I say to you, according to your faith, you can swim. I know perfectly well that it is literally according to your faith. A person who has enough confidence in the sea and in himself to make a small leap from the ground will certainly find the water lifting him, but not much, as he will inevitably come back down. Those who have enough confidence to start swimming but no more will not swim very far, as their confidence is so weak that they swim with such rapid strokes and hold their breath to such an extent that they end up collapsing. They might swim 5, 6, 12, or 14 strokes, but they won't go very far, all due to lack of confidence. While those who know with certainty that the sea will carry them, thus doing certain things, will swim with tranquility, serenity, and joy, and little will it matter to them if the water covers them. Oh, they will say, "This person does everything, they can't do it without the sea." You can hypnotize people to have faith in you. You can tell them they are now in the ocean, that they are swimming from the edge of a cliff which is actually a rock. You could force them to do it. They might have implicit faith in you. You could hypnotize them to think they are swimming while not actually swimming. Before the edge of the cliff, they would fall. You can't swim without the sea. You could also tell them it depends on them and whether they swim or not according to their faith. But if the sea is not there, they cannot swim. That's exactly how I feel about God. According to your faith, so it will be done. Yes, certainly. If you try to swim in this ocean of God's love, your faith will be rewarded, and according to your faith, it will be with you, in exact proportion to your faith. You will find the answer as a scientific law. There is not an atom of faith you put in God that does not receive its response. But remember, you do not plant a precious seed in your garden, and then, a day or a week later, pull it up to see if it is growing. On the contrary, you water it every morning. The same goes for your prayers. You do not plant the seed of your desire in your subconscious and then pull it up with doubts the next morning. You nourish it by keeping it in your thoughts, believing in it, visualizing it, projecting it as a fact accomplished. If you ask me for my own formula for successful prayer, I would say, focus your thoughts on what you want, visualize it, make a mental picture of it, and you plant the seed of desire. But don't stop there. The seed alone will not make a corn seed grow. It must be warmed by the sun and nourished by the rain. The same goes for the seed of your desire. It must be warmed by faith, nourished by constant belief. Then secondly, read Psalms 91 and 23 only, as a reminder of God's power and His willingness to help you with all your needs. Do not forget to give thanks, not only for past favors, but for the granting of the favor you are asking for now. Be able to sincerely thank God for it. Before its actual material manifestation, this is the best proof of faith. Believe. Imagine what you want with such clarity. Review it in your imagination so vividly that for the moment, at least, you truly believe that you have it. It is this sincere conviction recorded in your subconscious and through it in the universal mind that brings the answer to your prayers. Once you convince your subconscious that you have what you want, you can forget about it and move on to your next issue. The Spirit will handle making this reality like Aladdin and company, but weak and helpless hands grope blindly in the darkness, touching the right hand of God in that darkness and being lifted and strengthened. It is not always the person who struggles the most who advances in the world. What matters for progress is both the direction and the energy of the struggle. To succeed, you must swim with the current. People prosper and succeed when they work in harmony with natural forces. A certain amount of effort with these forces takes a person much farther, much faster than much more effort going against the current. Those who work blindly without considering these forces complicate their lives and rarely succeed. Wise observers have calculated that on average, about 90% of the factors leading to success or failure are outside of a person's conscious efforts, apart from their daily round of details. To the extent that one cooperates with the wisdom and power of the universal mind, one achieves success, is well, and is happy. To the extent that one does not cooperate, one has no success, is ill, and feels miserable. Through the ages, some have been able to prove and see that the Lord is good. The prophets and visionaries, blessed by God's loving kindness, proclaimed a God of universal goodness, saying, "The earth is full of the goodness of the Lord. He will show me the path of life. In his presence is fullness of joy." Now we know that this infinite good is not available more to one than to all. We know that the only limit lies in our ability to receive it. If you had to solve a difficult math problem, you would painstakingly gather the necessary numbers and let them arrange themselves in their proper sequence, because you would know that while the method to solve each problem has been discovered, you must work at it. The principles are there, but they must be applied. The first step is to understand the principle, to learn how it works and how to use it. The second part is the most important and involves applying this understanding to the problem at hand. Similarly, the principle of infinite energy and infinite supply is always available, but this energy, this provision, is static. You must make it dynamic. You must understand the law. You must apply your understanding to solve your problems of poverty, discord, and disease. Science demonstrates that it is possible to accomplish any good thing, but distrust in your ability to achieve the desired goal often hinders you, and failure is the inevitable result. Only by understanding that there is but one power, and that this power is the mind and not circumstances or environment, can you bring forth your true capabilities and put them to work. Few deny that intelligence governs the universe, regardless of whether this intelligence is called universal mind, divine providence, or simply nature. All acknowledge its guiding power. All admit that it is a force for good, for progress. But few realize that our own minds are part of this universal mind, just as the rays of the sun are part of the sun. If we work in harmony with it, we can draw from the universal mind all the power and intelligence, just as the rays of the sun draw their warmth and light from their source to bring them to earth. It is not enough to know you have this power. You must put it into practice, not once or twice, but every hour and every day. Do not be discouraged if it does not always work at first. When you first started studying arithmetic, your problems were not always solved correctly, were they? But that did not make you doubt the principle of mathematics. You knew that failure lay in your methods, not in the principle. The same applies here. The power is there, and when used correctly, it can accomplish all things. Everyone will agree that the mind that first brought the principle of life to this earth, that conceived the earth itself, the trees, the plants, and the animals, is all-powerful. Everyone will agree that to solve any problem, to meet any need, the mind only has to recognize the need, and it will be met. What most of us do not understand or realize is that we, being part of the universal mind, have that same power. Just as a large drop of water in the ocean has the properties of the vast mass of the ocean, just as an electric spark has all the properties of lightning having the power, we only need to realize and use it to bring into our lives all the good we can desire. In the beginning, everything was empty, space, void. How did the universal mind build the planets, the heavens, the earth, and all things upon and within it, from this formless void? It first created a mental image upon which to build. This is what you must do as well. You control your destiny, your form, and your happiness to the exact extent that you can think about them, visualize them, and see them, and allow no stray thought of fear or worry to spoil their realization and beauty. The quality of your thought is the measure of your power. A clear and firm thought has the power to attract to itself all that it might need to realize those thoughts. As Wallace Wattles says in his work, The Science of Getting Rich, there is a thinking substance from which all things are made, and which in its original state permeates, penetrates, and fills the interstices of the universe. A thought within this substance produces the thing imagined by the thought, Man can form things in his mind, and by imprinting his thought into the formless substance, he can bring about the creation of the thing he thinks about. The connecting link between your conscious mind and the universal mind is thought, and every thought that is in harmony with progress and good, every thought charged with the right idea, can penetrate the universal mind. Upon entering it, it returns with the power of the universal mind to accomplish that. It is not necessary to originate the forms and means. The universal mind knows how to accomplish any necessary result. There is only one correct way to solve any problem. When your human judgment is unable to decide what that correct way is, call upon the universal mind to guide you. You need not fear the outcome, for if you follow its advice, you cannot go wrong. Always remember that your mind is merely a conduit, good or bad, depending on how you direct it, of the universal mind's power, and thought is the connecting energy. Use this conduit and improve its transmission. Ask much and you will receive more. The universe is not stingy with any of its gifts. Ask and you shall receive, seek and you shall find, knock and it will be opened unto you. This is the law of life, and man's destiny is not in poverty and scarcity, but to live up to his high estate, in unity with the universal mind, with the power that governs the universe. To consider poverty and sickness as sent by God, and therefore inevitable, is the way of the weak. God has never sent us anything but good. In fact, He has never ceased to give to those who are willing to use the means to overcome any undesirable condition. Sickness and poverty are not His works. They are not proofs of virtue, but of weakness. God has given us everything in abundance and expects us to manifest that abundance. If you had a son whom you loved dearly and surrounded him with good things that he only had to strive to reach, would you not want him to show the world his misery, hunger, and rags simply because he was not willing to make enough effort to obtain the good things you provided for him? And this is also what God does, in my humble opinion. The main business of man in life, as I see it, is to establish contact with the universal mind, to acquire an understanding of the power within him. With all thy getting, get understanding, said Solomon. Happy is the man who finds wisdom, and the man who gains understanding, for her profit is better than that of silver, and her gain more than fine gold. She is more precious than rubies, and nothing thou canst desire is to be compared unto her. Length of days is in her right hand, in her left hand are riches and honor. Her ways are ways of pleasantness, and all her paths are peace. She is a tree of life to those who lay hold upon her, and happy is everyone who retains her. Proverbs. When you become aware, even to a certain extent, of your unity with the universal mind, of your ability to invoke the power for everything you need, you become a different person. Fears disappear, and concerns fade away. You know that your success, health, and happiness will be measured solely by the degree to which you can imprint the realization of your desires in your mind. Work, worries, fatigue, and exhausting labor will be as in the past for those who do not use their minds. The less they use it, the more they will sweat. The more they work only with their necks, the less they will be paid and the more desperate their fate will be. Such is the power that rules the world. But using your mind in the best possible way does not mean working only with its conscious part. It means uniting your conscious mind with the inner self, with the little mental elves, as Robert Louis Stevenson called them, and then working together towards a defined goal. God bless my little elves, Stevenson used to say. They do half my work while I am deeply asleep, and very likely they do the rest when I am wide awake, and I foolishly suppose that I do it all myself. For a long time I wanted to write a book on the dual nature of man. For 2 days I racked my brain searching for some kind of argument, and on the second night I dreamed of the scene with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde at the window, and then of a scene split in two where Hyde, pursued, took the powder and underwent the transformation in the presence of his pursuer. Many other famous writers have spoken in a similar manner, for every man who has problems to solve has had similar experiences. You know that after studying a problem from every angle, it sometimes seems more confusing than at the start. Leave it alone then, forget about it for a while, and when you return to it, you will find your thoughts clarified, your reasoning established, your problem solved. These are your little mental elves who have done the work for you. The spark of genius does not come from your own brain through intense concentration, but through a circuit passing through your subconscious mind to the universal mind. That is where inspiration comes from. All genius, all progress comes from this same source. All you have to do is learn how to establish this circuit at will, so you can engage it when you need it. And this is something that can be done in each of our internal consciousnesses, writes Dumont in La Mente Maestra. There are forces that act very similarly to what countless tiny elves or mental assistants would do, eager and ready to help us in our mental work. Of course, if we trust them, it is a psychological truth expressed in terms of old fairy tales. The process of calling upon these internal consciousness assistants is similar to the one we use to remember a forgotten fact or name. If we find that we cannot remember a fact, date, or name, instead of torturing our brains further, we pass the matter to the internal consciousness with a silent command. Remind me of this name. Then we continue with our ordinary work. After a few minutes or even a few hours, suddenly the missing name or fact appears before us, illuminated from the realms of the internal consciousness with the help of the kindly workers or brownies who have explored these realms. The experience is so common that we have ceased to marvel at it, but it remains a wonderful manifestation of the workings of the internal consciousness. Stop for a moment and think about it. Then you will see that the missing word does not come to you by accident or chance. There are mental processes working in your favor, and when they have solved the problem for you, they joyfully push it from their realm to the realm of external consciousness, where you can use it. We know of no better way to illustrate this topic than this whimsical figure of mental brownies in relation to the clearing of the subconscious warehouse. If you want to learn how to take advantage of the work of these subconscious brownies, we advise you to form a mental image of the subconscious warehouse, where all types of knowledge you have placed there throughout your life are stored, as well as the impressions you have inherited through racial memory. Indeed, the stored information has often been placed in the warehouse without any consideration of systematic arrangement or organization. So, when you want to retrieve something that has been stored there for a long time, the exact place has been forgotten, and you are compelled to call on the little mind brownies who faithfully carry out your mental command. Remind me of this. These brownies are the same ones you trust with the task of waking you up at 4 a.m. when you need to catch an early train, and they perform this waking task well. These same little helpers will also remind your consciousness that I have an appointment with Jones at 2 o'clock, and when you check your watch, you'll see that you have 15 minutes left before 2 o'clock, the time of your appointment. Well, if you carefully examine a subject you wish to master and convey the results of your observations to these subconscious elves, you will find that they will work on the raw materials of thought to shape them in a relatively short time. They will analyze, systematize, compare, and organize the various details of the information you have provided. Additionally, they will include similar pieces of information they find stored in the corners of your memory. In this way, they will consolidate scattered knowledge that you have forgotten. Allow us to also tell you that you forget absolutely nothing of what you have placed in your mind. You may not recall certain things, but they are not lost. At some point, an associative connection will be established with another fact, and this lost idea will be properly fitted into its place within the broader idea. This is the work of our little mental elves. Let us recall Thompson's statement. While awaiting the results of these unconscious processes, I have adopted the habit of collecting material in advance, then letting the mass digest itself until it is ready to be written. This subconscious digestion is truly the work of our little mental elves. There are many ways to make the elves work. Almost everyone has had some experience in this area, although it often happens almost unconsciously and without purpose or intention. Perhaps the best way for the average person, or rather for most people, to achieve the desired results is to form as clear an idea as possible of what you really want to know, as well as a clear idea or mental image of the question you wish to answer. Then, after reflecting on it in your mind with high voluntary attention, you can pass it to the subconscious with the mental command. Process this for me. Find the answer, or a similar order. This command can be given silently or aloud. Speak to your subconscious mind or its little workers in the same way you would speak to your employees, with kindness but firmness. Speak to the little workers and firmly instruct them to do their job, then forget all about the topic. Remove it from your conscious mind and attend to your other tasks. In due time, the answer will come, appearing in your consciousness. Perhaps not until you need to make a decision on the subject or require the information. You can instruct your brownies to present themselves at a specific time, just like when you ask them to wake you up at a certain hour to catch an early train, or like when they remind you of your appointment time if you have trained them well. Have you ever read the story by Richard Hardin Davis, The Man Who Could Not Lose? The hero is passionate about horse racing. He has studied the records and statistics until he knows every horse inside and out. The night before the big race, he sits in an armchair thinking about the race the next day and falls asleep with that thought in mind. Naturally, his subconscious picks it up and dreams of the exact outcome of the race. Of course, this is pure fiction, but if races were based solely on the speed and endurance of the horses, it would be entirely possible to calculate the results in this way. Unfortunately, other factors often come into play in all races. However, the idea behind Davis's story is quite accurate. The way to contact your subconscious to get the help of the inner self to solve any problem is as follows. First, fill your mind with all the relevant information you have on the problem. Second, choose a chair, a lounge, or a bed where you can lie down comfortably and completely forget about your body. Third, let your mind rest on the problem for a moment, peacefully and without worry. Then pass it on to your inner self. Tell it, this is your problem. You can solve it. You have the answer. Resolve it for me. Then, completely relax. If possible, fall asleep, or at least enter one of those half-sleep, half-awake dreams that prevent other thoughts from interfering with your consciousness. Act like Aladdin calling his genie. Give it your instructions, then forget about the subject, confident that it will take care of it for you. So when you wake up, you will have the answer. Because any thought or problem you pass to your subconscious at bedtime, your inner self will resolve for you. Of course, not everyone succeeds in passing the thought to the subconscious on the first or second attempt. It requires understanding and faith, just as solving mathematical problems requires understanding and faith in mathematical principles. But if you keep trying, you will eventually succeed, and when you do, the results will be certain. If you desire something, first visualize it in your mind. See it with as many details as possible. Imagine yourself performing all the necessary actions as your wish comes true. Build a complete step-by-step story as if you were acting it out. Enjoy every ounce of pleasure and satisfaction you can from it, and thank for this gift that has come to you. Then relax and go to bed. Give your inner self the chance to bring your desire to fruition without interference. When you wake up, think about it pleasantly for a few moments. Don't let doubts and fears creep in, but move forward with confidence, knowing that your desire is fulfilling itself. Believe in it. And if there is nothing harmful in it, it will come true, for somewhere in the universal mind lies the right solution to every problem, no matter how large and complicated it may be, or how simple it might seem. There is always the right solution in the universal mind, and since this solution exists, there is also the capacity to discover and implement what you need to know and do. You can know and do everything correctly. You only need to seek the help of the universal mind and be guided by its suggestions. Try this method every night for a while, and there will be no problem you cannot solve.